Most people think of death as a fading out, a final breath, a gentle dissolve into blackness. But what if that's not how it happens? What if the end isn't silent, but vivid? Some say it begins like a dream, not the soft kind that evaporates on waking, but a lucid one, sharp, strange, unmistakably real. You're hovering, watching, aware of the room, the people, your own body lying still. You try to speak, but there's no mouth. Try to move, but there's no weight. And yet, you are still you. Lucid dreamers talk about floating through walls, about meeting beings who speak without sound. They describe being fully awake inside their dreams, separate from their physical body, but more present than ever. And strangely, so do people who've died and come back. In hospitals across the world, monitors have recorded a final surge in brain activity, seconds after the heart stops. Gamma waves, the same ones that rise in deep meditation, in lucid REM sleep, in states of heightened awareness. Some scientists call it the brain's last gasp. Others see it as something more, a moment of clarity as the self slips from the body. Tibetan monks train for this moment their entire lives. Dream yoga teaches them to stay conscious in the dark, to ride awareness through the veil of death, not to escape it, but to meet it, fully awake. And here's the unsettling thought. What if they're right? What if death isn't peace? What if it's presence? Not a release into nothing, but a lucid, silent witness to your own ending? In this video, we're exploring the strange overlap between lucid dreams, dying brains, and the stories of those who came back. Because once you know what might really happen, you can't look away. If you like exploring these kind of questions, please subscribe to our channel. There's a moment right before waking when the world feels slippery. You know you're asleep, but somehow still in control. You can walk through a dream like a memory you've stepped into. This is lucid dreaming. It's not a fantasy or a trick, but a real and measurable brain state. And it might be the closest thing we have to dying without dying. In 2009, sleep researcher Ursula Voss discovered something remarkable. The brains of lucid dreamers show increased gamma wave activity, especially in the frontal cortex. These are the same brain rhythms linked to self-awareness and high-level cognition, proof that lucid dreamers are not lost in delusion, but fully awake inside their dreams. Inside these dreams, people fly without effort. They dissolve into light. They confront their fears. Some say time disappears entirely. Others encounter guides or beings that feel more real than anything they've known. There's a clarity to these experiences, a strange vividness that makes waking life feel thin by comparison. The body is irrelevant. The dreamer moves, feels, even thinks beyond the limits of flesh. It's no wonder Tibetan Buddhists treat dream states as a training ground. Dream yoga, or Milam, teaches practitioners to maintain awareness even while the body sleeps. The ultimate goal is to remain conscious through death itself, to navigate the Bardo, the liminal space between lives, with full awareness. They don't see dreams as illusions, but as rehearsals for something much bigger. For thousands of years, yogis, mystics, and monks have described the dream state as sacred terrain, a mirror of what lies beyond this life. And they're not alone. In Western mysticism, early Christian and Gnostic texts spoke of dreamlike realms between the worlds. Indigenous shamans described dreamwalking and soul travel, using sleep as a gateway to the spirit world. The overlap isn't just philosophical, it's biological. Neuroscientists studying lucid REM states have noted a unique hybrid signature. The brain functions almost as if awake, yet immersed in the dreamscape. This hybrid state, both conscious and unbound, may resemble the strange condition observed in dying patients, when gamma activity spikes right after the heart stops, lighting the brain with one last spark of awareness. In lucid dreams, the ego begins to dissolve. The I that clings to the body, to identity, begins to blur. This echoes descriptions of near-death experiences, where people feel untethered from their form, existing only as awareness. It also mirrors the moments captured on EEG scans as the brain dies, when the last spark of gamma activity ignites, echoing the very same frequencies seen in lucid REM sleep. Even modern dreamers, ordinary people, report moments of shocking beauty or terror, a sudden knowing that they are not in a body, that nothing is solid, that something is watching, that they are watching. These moments shake us. They stay with us. So what are these dreams really? Echoes of memory? Random sparks in a sleeping brain? Or are they windows, previews of how consciousness might persist when the body no longer holds it? For some, lucid dreaming is just a curiosity. But for others, it's the first glimpse of what might come after the last breath. Clinical death used to mean silence. No heartbeat, no breath, no brain activity. The end. But now, machines tell a more complicated story, one that doesn't end when the heart stops. In recent years, scientists have observed something that challenges our deepest assumptions: a surge of brain activity seconds after death. In 2022, researchers at the University of Michigan recorded a spike in gamma waves in 2 comatose patients who were removed from life support. These weren't random twitches, they were organized bursts, occurring in areas of the brain linked to conscious processing, memory, and self-awareness. This wasn't the first time. Earlier studies recorded similar findings in rats. Just after cardiac arrest, a final storm of gamma activity lit up their brains. For a brief window, their neural signatures resembled those of fully conscious beings. Gamma waves are rare. They don't arise in passive sleep or quiet rest. They show up in moments of heightened presence, lucid dreaming, deep meditation, spiritual insight. So when they appear in dying brains, it raises a haunting possibility. Awareness doesn't vanish with the pulse. It might intensify. EEG and fMRI technologies now allow us to glimpse these patterns in real time. Some patients who have been revived after flatlining describe watching doctors work on their bodies, hearing their names being called, seeing from above. These are not hallucinations stitched together after waking. Some match precise details, confirmed by medical staff, of events that occurred while the brain, supposedly, had no capacity to record. It's not just anecdotal. The AWARE study, a large-scale investigation across multiple hospitals, found that a subset of cardiac arrest survivors reported verifiable experiences during periods of clinical death. This includes accurate recollections of procedures and environments they had no sensory access to. When researchers compare the brain states of these individuals to those of lucid dreamers, the parallels are uncanny. Both show activity in the temporoparietal junction, linked to out-of-body perception. Both involve gamma synchrony. Both include narratives where the self remains intact, yet detached from the body. And then there's the emotional texture. People don't just observe, they describe a profound sense of clarity, as if freed from the noise of the body. Some feel comfort, others terror. But all report the same thing. They were there, not gone or erased. Even in the lab, death no longer looks like a switch flipped off. It looks like a slow transition, a shimmer between states, a liminal space where consciousness might persist, even expand, before it fades, or moves on. And what if it doesn't fade? If the body falls away and the mind remains, unbound by time, trapped or liberated in a state of lucid detachment, what then? If gamma surges are not simply echoes, but doorways. So what does science say about consciousness after death? Not that it ends, but that it might hang on, illuminated, unmoored, and watching. If death feels like a lucid dream, then the question becomes, what kind of dream is it? Peaceful? Chaotic? Eternal? And who exactly is the one having it? Some people don't guess what death feels like. They remember. It starts with a sound. Distant, mechanical, like something being unzipped from the inside. There's pressure, then stillness, then the rising sense that something essential is lifting out. They float. They watch. They see the room, their body, the faces of people panicking around them, but from above. These are first-person reports from those who were clinically dead, revived only minutes later, and what they describe feels eerily familiar to lucid dreamers. The detachment, the heightened clarity, the absence of physical limits. Many report passing through a tunnel, meeting others, feeling completely awake, but no longer human in the usual sense. Not in a body, and not anchored to time. The Tibetan Book of the Dead calls this phase the Bardo, a transitional space where the mind encounters visions drawn from its own deepest patterns. If one is aware, one can move through it consciously. But if unprepared, the experience becomes overwhelming, distorted by fear or clinging. This is where the paradox emerges. We assume death is unconscious, but if the brain, even in its final cascade, produces something vivid, something structurally identical to a lucid dream, then death is not a blackout. It's a stage. And what happens on that stage depends on how awake you are. Some people experience a panoramic life review, not a slideshow, but a full-body immersion into the emotions of others, feeling exactly what they once caused. Others describe landscapes of profound beauty or terrifying stillness, but always there is a sense of presence, of being there, of knowing. These experiences aren't always peaceful. For some, they're deeply unsettling, trapped in a timeless state, unsure how to move, unsure whether they are dead or dreaming. The brain, flooded with light and meaning, becomes the last theater of consciousness, and you are both actor and witness. Lucid dreamers speak of false awakenings, waking up inside a dream, believing they're back in reality, only to discover it's another layer. What if death is like that? Waking up not into oblivion, but into a new, unfamiliar awareness. What if what we call dying is just the first false awakening? Ancient traditions teach that preparation is everything. Tibetan monks rehearse their deaths nightly through dream yoga, not to escape, but to meet the transition with open eyes, to remain lucid even as the self dissolves. It reframes everything. If death is a lucid state, then the way we live, how aware we are, how practiced we are at watching, may shape what happens when the body falls away. And perhaps the most disturbing possibility is this. What if you stay conscious and you're not ready? What if no one told you? What if the peace you expected is replaced by a silence so total it feels like being buried in your own mind? This is not fear-mongering. It's a reckoning, a call to wake up before we die, not because we can stop death, but because we might live it fully. And that changes everything. If you're still here, maybe you felt it too. Not fear, not exactly. Something deeper. A sense that behind everything we've been taught about endings, something else is waiting. Not a void or a wall, but a doorway. What if the mind doesn't vanish? What if the quiet isn't empty? Every night you disappear into dreams, and yet you return, a little changed, a little more curious. Maybe that's not an accident. Maybe it's practice. Maybe life itself is the rehearsal. The truth is, we don't know what comes next, but there's something beautiful in that. Not knowing means we're still invited, still searching, still alive to wonder. You are not crazy for sensing more, for wanting there to be something beyond the flicker of breath, something intelligent, conscious, awake. And maybe that something is you. If any part of this touched you, share what you felt in the comments, the flicker, what rose up, what won't leave you, because someone else might need to see it. And maybe you needed to say it. This space, beyond reality, is here for that, for the truths we're only beginning to name. If you want to keep walking through this mystery with us, subscribe. Not because we have answers, but because we're asking the right questions together. And when the screen goes dark, don't rush away. One of the next 2 videos will be chosen by the algorithm, but maybe it's exactly what you need next. Thanks for watching.